You write it down.
Red light. We good?
Yes.
We're on.
I'm gonna move for this.
Yeah. I'm going to call this council workshop for May 21st, 2019 to order. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councillor Ward?
Here.
Councillor Colby?
Here.
Councillor Brunel?
Here.
Councillor Larochelle?
Here.
Councillor Albert?
Has been excused.
Councillor Lunt?
MIA.
Pending.
He's probably en route.
Or not.
Hardy?
Usually they let you know if he isn't coming.
Right. Next item.
Next item is budget workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Randy Sear, Public Works Director. I'm sure all of you got the memorandum as far as the plans for changing the fees and also getting rid of the commercial end of the haulers coming into our transfer station. If you look on your memorandum on the second page, it's going to list approximately 1,482 ton that the three commercial haulers haul into our facility, costing us with our rate at the main energy was our rate is $64.66, cutting that for a total of $95,826.12. They pay each $250 a year to dump at our facility. Having them bring their own trash to Auburn and pay their own tipping fees would save my department $95,076.12. It just seems to me that this is a big place where we're losing a lot of money. The taxpayers are paying for a business that's making money. We do not let Toriano or any of the other commercial haulers back their trucks in and dump waste in our hopper. And checking with other surrounding towns, they don't let commercial haulers dump in their facilities. They have to bring it to Auburn. My proposal is to get rid of the commercial haulers, for one. The second is changing some of the fees. You've all been given the fees. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Anything he's referring to, do we have that here? I'm looking
Yes.
at the 7 o'clock packet. I got nothing.
Yeah.
The one with the agenda? No, I didn't give you one because it's in the pack. It's in the,
It's in this pile of stuff?
no, it's on your online.
It's online if you have to look
How
for
far
it.
down?
I'll give you a
Should
paper
be
copy
right
if you
one
want
of
one.
the first agenda items.
And so that's my first proposal. I mean, that's because, for one, we're trucking it, we're paying for it. They're charging customers. Those customers don't have stickers. So there's a big loss, and that's just one part of it. The other part of it is other businesses in town. A lot of stuff comes, from other towns. There's no way, like when you're talking about mattresses, couches, or whatever, companies will offer free removal, and it comes to our facility and at a really discounted rate as opposed to other towns. We're getting mattresses, couches, and what have you. Then a few other fees. We're going to go up on the annual fee for stickers, for one. That rate's going to change to $25 for residents. Second vehicle being free, so if you think about it, we only charge $5 for the second vehicle, so it's basically going up $10. But what we're trying to do is to streamline it so they do both of their vehicles at once. And it saves on my guy having to look up, see who's paid, see who hasn't, and it'd be just a lot easier. If you look for the changes from last year, from previous years, there are just few other changes on the commercial rates, and the rates as far as the 1-day permits for demolition, the 1-day permits for residents, proof of residency went up from $5 to $10. Local contractors issue with an agreement for weekly billing gone up from $10 to $30. As you can see in here, it clearly marks all the changes that we're proposing to make. The reason being is what used to pay us money is no longer paying us money. It's costing us money to get rid of. So our recyclables, our streamline went from $30 a ton. Our number 2 and those used to cost us $30. Now we're at $150. So that's costing us more. The revenue we used to pull out of our cardboard and our mixed paper is almost nil. And the money that we make off our cardboard is basically offsetting the other costs. So therefore, that's the reason why we have to up our rates. Any questions?
If I may? Now, I totally understand everything you're saying, Randy, and to me it makes a lot of sense. The question would be there's a lot of people that actually question the idea of, something like change like this all at once. One of the things I know a while back when we actually, I think the council, when I wasn't on council, did a workshop or did a study where they did about the idea of proposing to change the way we do trash pickup in town. There was a lot of confusion and people about what they're actually paying for tax-wise versus the idea of what they're paying for trash. It'd just be kind of curious to see, what that would actually change the person. And again, this doesn't really affect, I totally agree the idea of doing what we need to do to make sure that we're actually not going red at the transfer station, but whether or not, how that would affect the people for the local trash pickup as far as what their, monthly or weekly fees would be as far as about having someone hauling it to out of town. I don't know, is there a different fee, say if someone that's actually hauling Lisbon trash out to Auburn or wherever they would be, what would the tonnage that we pay versus what they would pay, is that different? Looking at the scale, I was trying to figure out if that'd be a commercial.
It's marked on here on the memorandum, on the second page.
The gate fee?
No, on the first page, sorry. And almost down to the bottom, it shows the gate rate.
Yeah, 90.
Which is $90-something, and the commercial haulers would be $86.34. And basically that would be what our commercial haulers that are hauling in to us now would have to pay once they get out there. The other thing, Fern, is that we really can't police where the trash is coming from.
I totally agree, yep.
I don't know what's in their trucks, and I don't know who their customers are. For us to dig through every bag and make sure there's evidence of everybody being in Lisbon is kind of ridiculous because it's already busy up there as it is. So for them to, we're basically trusting in them that they're hauling everything from Lisbon, and which, I know on the off days they have other customers in other areas that they do.
Yeah.
So how am I guaranteed that all that tonnage is coming from us?
Yep.
And so, the residents that I have them hauling, those are the residents that aren't paying the $10, the $10 a year. $10 a year to dump trash all year long is nothing.
It's piddly. It pays for the print sticker. That's basically all it does.
The cost of a sticker that have us printed is almost $1.50.
Yeah. And I think through that, and I wasn't part of that committee that led to it, but actually sat through some of the discussions and stuff. And one of the things that they had brought up that actually made sense, and again, it may not even play a role, is the idea of where communities actually sell trash bags. Whether they're purple, green, yellow, and in this circumstance, again, I'm not going against what you're saying at all. I'm just trying to think of a different way people would see value in it. So if someone was say up to your shop, if you actually bought 30 yellow bags and they were $2 each, whether you hauled them to dumps or you paid someone to haul them to dump, we're still collecting the same amount of money for those bags.
Right.
So that way, one way would be the idea the person would, what they're actually paying for is now just a true hauling fee, not so much actually a disposal fee, because that's actually figured into the bag. Is anything like that be practical? I mean, if one of these suppliers pulled in and they had a truck full of yellow bags and there was a black one came out, you would know that'd be one that you didn't pay for.
Right.
You
I know Diane and I have talked about that. She implemented that when she worked at Callis.
Yeah.
But it takes a little bit to do.
Exactly.
I mean, this would have to be, somebody like your supermarkets, your Aubuchons, your places like that would have to sell the bags. We could sell them at, but that I just think is going to take a huge undertaking, to get everybody on board.
Versus
How long is that
just
gonna
adjusting
take?
the fees is a lot easier
Right.
and make it happen today.
Yeah.
Not-
But you would actually get, I mean, and again, I'm just speaking for myself. I mean, you probably have not hundreds but thousands of people in the community that actually pay to have people hauled out, that as of the first day someone would say, I'm not hauling your trash anymore because
Well, you think
financially
of
it doesn't
quick
work.
numbers.
But
We have 9,800 people in this town. We
Correct.
sell about 3,100 tickets. So what happens to the other, 6,700 people?
I totally agree.
Obviously, they're not buying our stickers,
Correct.
and they're obviously paying somebody to haul it off, which is making 100% profit, because when it ends up at my place, I handle it, I truck it, my packer has to pack it, in which we need a $100,000 trailer. Who's paying for that? It sure as heck ain't, the people, 1,400 ton, that's a lot of trash to be packing and hauling
Yeah.
at our expense. It's not my expense, it's the taxpayer's expense.
Yep.
So every one of
All
you
of
is
ours.
paying.
Right.
Yeah, so everybody's paying for it.
Well, and not to mention, I mean, look at how many rentals we have in this community. They're not paying taxes. And if they're going through one of these places, they're getting off pretty easy and not having to, it's falling on those of us who do pay taxes.
You're concerned, Fern's really concerned about, we all know that we have a few local guys that haul trash.
Yeah,
No
but
doubt
they
about
But
it.
it's not going to curb their business at all.
Of course not.
I mean, all they're going to be
Of course
doing
not.
is paying their due diligence to make.
Correct. And if
you
they
know.
if they're gonna move their price up a little bit to those people who are to adjust, and the people who still don't want to bring their trash, they're still gonna pay the extra couple bucks to make sure that somebody takes that off the end of their snoop.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
So,
right now, I mean,
didn't see anything in there that it wasn't warranted myself. I think that everything you've got going in is going in the right direction.
I just think that there's other communities that doesn't, and like I said, if we're going to let these commercial haulers, what's to stop Turiano from coming down and backing their
Anybody.
packer in and say,
Anybody.
hey, I just took all this from Lisbon. You got to
Right.
take my trash. You take everybody else's.
Oh, yeah.
Where does it stop?
Does it?
To me, it still doesn't address, and again, don't get me wrong, that's why we're having a workshop on it, but to me, if even the person that's buying a $25 ticket still isn't paying their waste the way if they actually go twice a week and dump the trash, whether they're going
Absolutely.
twice a week and dumping it. To me, if there was a way of actually,
$25 a ticket is $25 a year is still cheap.
Still cheap.
I mean, that's
cheap.
it's unrealistic because you can do that in a week. I mean, if you
Exactly.
clean out your garage and you bring out, you've actually overexpended that in a week. I mean,
Absolutely.
and that's why my point is the idea if we could actually get to a point where if someone brings in 30 bags of trash versus someone bringing in one bag of trash, to me there ought to be a balance there. As far as the person bringing in more trash ought to pay more, right? I mean, that's the way the world with everything else.
Again, if you're only bringing one a week, that's still
But on the other
That's
hand,
still
if
52
somebody's
bags a
got to
year.
buy, if somebody's got to buy like $2 bags, do you think they're actually going to pay somebody $25, $35, $40 a month to even come pick up their bags? Now they're paying triple. So now you're going to get those people that are going to pay they're going to come do it all themselves. So, I mean, if you're worried about the 3 commercial guys putting those bags into place, they're gone. Because if they up their rates, like you said, $5, $10 a month, they're more apt to do that than if you implement all the colored bags. Those people are going to say, well, I'm not going to pay $2 a bag and then pay another $25 to $45 a month to have you come pick up my trash.
potentially, yeah.
So basically, I'm saying, they should pay, they got a business going.
Yeah, no, I
You know what I'm
totally
saying?
agree.
I mean, and right now it's costing them nothing other than their operating costs. But that's it. I mean, it's costing the taxpayers money. And I guess, when I was under the impression that, when you were asking me where are we going to make money to get another guy up there, there's your money. I mean,
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just asking the idea of.
Can I
we-
just
we
ask
know-
a point of order?
Yeah.
In fact, clarification would be the fact is controlling costs, not making money.
Right.
that's correct.
That's a key point.
Well, it's-
If we're looking to add staff up there, I'm
Right.
looking to actually even the cost out so it's not increasing the problem that we're
Right.
experiencing.
with just the number one of his.
Yeah.
Just that number one, that's not even going to arrest him, just the number one is going to give us another man on the job.
Right.
Give you two guys.
Correct, I'm saying,
You know what I'm
we're
saying?
talking about
I'm
one
not
guy.
looking- I'm not looking for revenue, but
Correct. Oh, yeah.
on the big scale, you know, it costs us a lot of money to get rid of trash, like $16,000.
Yeah, and it's only going up. It's not getting cheaper.
No,
You gotta-
and the stuff we used to make a revenue on, now it's costing us money.
Correct.
Right.
So, you know, times are gonna change.
Yeah, something has happened.
So that's what I'm proposing. I mean, you know, we need the help, but we also need the money. I mean, we can't just keep doling it out.
Right.
I mean, if that's the case, I'm in the wrong business.
Well, I mean, it's either taxes go up to be able to dispose all of this, and taxes also go up because we need more staff, or we implement something like this, so that way
I mean, it's a
taxes aren't
win-win
impacted.
situation for the commercial haulers. It really is. I mean, they make it from the people, and it doesn't cost them anything to get rid of it. It's almost like Poland Spring. The water's free. It's a renewable energy, renewable source. All you gotta do is package it.
The, so any commercial, you'd be like anybody that actually, say the furniture stores or anybody that does roofing and siding, anybody that's a commercial account would actually have to bring.
Those commercial accounts,
Yeah.
fees will rise. Okay, because as you can see on the other pieces of paper where we're raising rates, those commercial haulers, you know, like for a 1 ton is more money. You know, the different sizes of trucks you have, the more it's going to cost you.
And that guy that you're going to hire by saving on number one, he's going to be watching all that stuff. Or one of them
Absolutely.
guys up there are going to be on that every day. Everybody that comes in, everybody's getting their eyeball checked.
Oh, they're looking now. And
Oh, I understand. I understand,
appreciate
but with another guy, they'll really be able to.
Yeah.
You know, my thing is to try to defer some of that even on the commercial side, even as that goes, to bring their own to Auburn.
Yeah.
But I'm just basically handling it, and nobody's paying me to handle it.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's what my point was. I mean,
Yeah.
instead of bringing a load of shingles, I mean, in a sense, I mean, for what you're charging for cost, does it even balance out what we got to pay for disposal fee and the handling of it? You mean?
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean,
Because we
does that-
pay per ton,
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Because what we pay for a ton to actually dispose of it versus what they pay for a ton to get it, I mean, is that with your new fees?
That's why if you look
No.
on the worksheet, you're going to see where we're minus. We're in the red
Yeah.
in a lot of these columns.
With your changes, do you think that will actually take care of some of that redness, or?
I mean, we can implement some changes as far as that goes.
Yeah.
Won't hurt.
No,
I just think if we're looking at more or less not, to me, in a sense, what we're trying to do is actually not make our transfer station a commercial dumping zone, but make
That's
it more
correct.
for residentials.
that's
So,
correct.
to
That's
me,
what
if
it was
you-
designed for.
To me,
And
if
now
you
it's getting
do-
a little out of hand.
To me, you do that, you just do it right across the board. Basically, all we're accepting now is residential waste, and that way there you don't let out any commercial dumping.
That's right.
Shingles,
And you're going to
roofing,
see our costs.
building materials, anything. Basically, the only thing that comes through the gate now is someone with a residential sticker dropping off residential stuff.
I mean, just
I mean,
because
that
we
would-
have a packing system and not roll-offs like surrounding towns,
Yeah.
we're fortunate to have that building.
Yeah.
But that's just to make it so we could put more in and not have so many roll-offs and pay so many, you know, every time you bring a roll-off out, it's $150.
Yeah.
So to have those on hand and replace, that's why we have a packer. And that's why we can eliminate all those trips that somebody else is going to have to come in.
I just think it'd be easier to implement, not saying your commercial trash we won't take, but your commercial stuff we will. It'd be easier if you're gonna make a switch to actually just say it's strictly a residential transfer station.
That's what it
We
should
bring
be.
residential trash. We don't accept any bulk loads of anything that's building materials or roofing or anything like that. That needs to go to a different location, I mean, which
At the gate, even if you're not a commercial hauler, but at the gate, you can pay $90 over in Auburn and get rid of your stuff.
Or you charging a rate of that nature. The fact that it's $100 a ton. The fact is they're going to say you don't have the ability to have the ton, but you have an idea of what somebody rolling up with a Ford 150 is actually going to be able to put in the back of that thing.
Guy handling trash long enough and be able to tell.
Right.
Well, you know, and the other thing, you know, if we had all the money in the world, we could buy scales and scale it in, scale it out. You know, but, you know, even at that point, why would you want to?
if you were,
Invest the money for commercial people to you still get the problem.
so if you were doing this, say if you're looking at this and you got rid of all your commercial and all you're dealing with residential people, do you actually need another person at that point?
Probably not, because you wouldn't have all that influx of, you know,
All the kooky stuff.
Pretty much. I mean, it would be.
All the TVs,
A lot-
refrigerators, and mattresses,
Exactly.
and
Well, you still get that residential, it's just you wouldn't
Right.
get it from a commercial clean out of a residence.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's just one of those things where, I mean, it all depends how extreme you go as far as, I mean, it's easier to sell in a sense where we're saying, look, we're just getting out of the commercial trash business and we're just doing residential.
Right.
I mean, but again, it's one of those things where it's easy to sell here, but I mean, I'm sure Diane's phone will probably heat up like on a major
Heat
end.
up.
Heat up to no end. Yep.
Well,
I'm sure I'll hear it too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
we're all going to hear it in that regard. One of the we go down the line associated with what we're seeing here. I think the first thing to do would be to put it on for a public hearing on the topic. I know they're
absolutely, yeah.
they're poorly attended, but at least allow for that period to be able to be heard.
I know 3 people will show up at least ask
I
questions.
believe so.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Because
I
it's
mean,
hurt,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
their pocketbook, so.
Yeah.
But it's theirs or mine.
But I mean, at least at that point, they would actually be able to look at it and have they could educate people ahead of time saying, look, if this was implemented, this is what your weekly cost of $10, and now it's going to go $30 a week because I got to haul out of town. So at least they'd be able to actually have some pre-warning. I'm just not really much one for changing something without people having some type of
yeah.
input and really to flush it out, but it's definitely an interesting scenario. I mean, it's without doubt. I mean, like you say, our transfer station initially wasn't designed as a commercial
No.
location. It was actually designed as a residential.
I mean, you figure when, if they pick up in other towns, they got to bring it there anyway. So why is our town any different? 'Cause we're nice. You know what I mean? But it's at everybody else's expense.
Where does Bowdoin actually go,
I know,
Bowdoin Simple Landfill,
I know
I
they
think?
do pick up some in Bowdoin too.
I think
Yeah.
they still have a.
Do they have a landfill or
I
something?
think so.
Yeah. Do you still have landfills? I'm not sure that actually works
Yeah.
anymore, but
This day and age, they're not well
Yeah.
publicized if they are.
So if this is the way you think you want to go, we'd want to implement that when we renew our stickers in September, because that's when the stickers run out.
Yeah.
So we'd want to have everything in place, so when people start getting their stickers, probably the middle of August, that's when we charge the new fees, and then
Oh, well, I agree
that'll give us
with.
time here to have any public hearing that you want.
I agree with Alan. I think we should have a public hearing, especially where the stickers are going up, so everybody has an opportunity to be prepared instead of getting to the counter and finding out.
I'll probably have to watch my back then.
the 2 things I'd like to say is
You
one
and
is,
everybody
if
else.
I may.
Yeah.
The one thing that we're here tonight is the idea of not justifying another personnel for the solid waste. I mean, that was kind of one of the reasons we wanted to do it before budget season, right, Alan? You wanted
Yeah,
to
no,
justify
we need to
the
be
dollars.
prepared. The fact is,
Yeah.
we're going to turn a screw. I know what it is on the budgetary impact, what I'm seeing now.
Yeah.
If we're looking to add a body, the fact is,
How do we do
get to
that?
that place?
Yeah. And
I mean, because if you're going to police, in all actuality, we're pretty hype on who's got a sticker and who doesn't. But let's say, you grab another 200 stickers. What are you making, $2,000?
yeah, it's piddling.
What is that?
It doesn't amount.
That
to
really
anything.
doesn't,
Right.
that's not really going to justify a guy's position at $30,000 a year plus.
Yeah.
So, you have to look at a bigger picture. Where is that
Cost.
money going to come from?
Yeah, reducing costs is basically
So-
yeah.
And this is where,
The other part of that, and one of the things I had concern when I was into the audience of the last segment that the council did as far as looking at different areas.
Excuse me.
I would like to, before we did implement this, I would want to actually put some type of ordinance in place as far as for dumpsters, because the one thing that our town doesn't have because of the pickup is dumpsters at the end of every driveway, and if you go up 125, you'll definitely notice when you get over the line, you notice everybody has a dumpster at the end of their driveway, which isn't always pretty a lot of times, So I think we would actually have to implement some type of process on how that is and how it's not, because if you don't regulate it, to me, that's the thing that would drive everybody, because it would be cheaper at that point in time for a lot of people just to get a
it'd be even
commercial
cheaper for
dumpster.
us, even at the transfer station.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I mean, other than it being an eyesore, and
Yeah.
probably people don't like looking at them,
yeah.
but look at the revenue it's going to save us, what I
No
mean?
doubt.
And the taxpayers.
I would like just to have to look to see what other communities do as far as for implementing where people can and where they can't put them. I'm not about controlling people's driveways and what they can do, but we don't want to drive one down 196 and actually have a dumpster at the end of every driveway. Which
especially not on the 196 corridor.
you know what I mean? But again, that's just one of those things that come with the idea of changing the program sometimes that we'd want to look into. That's all.
But I think the fees that they would pay on dumpsters as opposed to, charging $10 more or what have you, is still a far cry from what they're paying.
Yeah.
You know, and even if,
$25.
you know, the commercial guys charge another $10 a month or whatever they gotta charge. Because, you know, if you do the math and you.
I know our business right now, it's dollar for dollar for, if I was to get to replace what I pay for local service pickup versus getting a dumpster, it's pretty much the same money, without a doubt, yearly. I mean, so if that went up, the dumpster would actually look definitely more promising. It would just be one of those things where, again, we're doing a lot to actually try to, you know,
Improve our look.
reinforce the look. I would hate to think that we would actually, I mean, most trash people want pick up dumpsters at the end of the driveway. They want it to be easy accessible. They don't want to be going down.
Right.
And how that actually works out, because if we don't have something in place, we can't really control how that works or how it don't. So, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just
Right.
one of those things where we don't want to make a change that actually a year later we say, oh my God, this actually was a secondary result of this. Is the idea of, you know, something that we
I mean,
now
if
can't control.
you're worried about that, you can have it in an ordinance. It's got to be at least 50 feet off the road or what have you.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
would almost wait on something like that and see if it really is an issue.
Right.
I think
Because
once
you can institute an ordinance at any time, but I would just, I don't know.
I don't think people are going to jump on that bandwagon that quick. I'll tell you that.
We do have to update our solid waste ordinance. We started working on that. We've
I just
gotta-
know there's already a half dozen through town you go through, and usually they're overloaded and stuff hanging on the side already that actually people complain about to me anyways. And we have no control of
If you already see some ugly
Yeah.
kids out there, all you gotta
Yeah.
do is talk about it, and we can put an ordinance, as
Yeah,
Diane
but
just said.
like I say, it's just one of those things where I think it needs to be part of the discussion. We could wait on it, but it would definitely be part of the discussion of, you know, what the alternatives are. You mean, because one of the things that years ago they had discussed the idea of raising fees, and one of the concerns was the idea of more people dumping trash. I mean, all those secondaries affect when people come through, but I mean, you can have those people anyways, regardless. You know what I mean, if you give it to them free, they're still going to dump it someplace where they're not supposed to. You mean, so.
Well, that's, you know,
Yeah.
we find those dump places once in a while. We dig through and we find a name and we get them, you know,
Yep, well,
they end up
absolutely.
paying for it.
Yeah, totally agreed. No, I appreciate what you're doing, Randy, because and again, that's just what Alan asked for. He wanted you to, you know, which I think was a result of the rest of the council too, looking for ways to actually correct it.
Right.
And as we know, it's not going to get any better over the next couple of years, so either we need to actually kind of trim it now, figure out how we actually do it, you know, whether or not it's actually charging everybody a little bit more, or the idea of reducing our costs as far as for reducing the
Both.
influx. So the combination of the two may not be a bad
I
thing.
gave you a prime example of how to save money. So.
One of the key
And it
key
looks good.
things-
Did I say that already?
You did, yeah.
One of the key things that Randy's presented is the fact that the revenue stream on 3,100 permits, it's either going to be a significantly higher fee that hurts on the upfront, but when you do the per trip or what you're actually generating, it's still completely economical, because the great equalizer that I've heard sitting in this chair long enough is don't touch the dump. But there's an inequity associated with what's that mean? Is it 2 bags a week, or is it a truck a week coming out of a specific location? And when you're looking at the escalating costs that we've had in the last 2 years, and the current stuff in the media are associated with the tariffs and the $90 a ton on some commodities coming out of that facility, we can't absorb that. It doesn't make sense.
What did you, may I? When you implemented something like that in Callis, as far as that?
It was already in place when I got there, the
So it was a
paper bag.
paper bag.
It worked really well. We sold them at the town office, and there were 2 grocery stores in town, and they'd come in and get bags, and they would sell them right at the grocery stores as well.
Yeah,
So
what
people-
type of revenue did you actually, can you remember the numbers at all, that, and you had a
I can't. We sold $1.50 a bag.
$1.50 bag?
My only fear with that is you're going to have those people who are going to refuse to pay for the bags, and then we're going to have dumping stations throughout town that are illegal, and people are.
Unfortunately, you can have that.
One of
I
the
mean,
other alternatives that was actually presented with the last solid waste committee was to actually institute curbside pickup, and it was tied to the fact that one of the discussions in that was to close this facility and actually make all the commercial that we're talking about go elsewhere, and we couldn't even do a demo in town without having that premium being paid from us as well. So it seems counterproductive, but none of it's perfect. What I would say in that is that pull that report that I know that was done at the first year that we were on the elected, Cassie, is see if there's anything in that that actually be revisited to make this discussion a little more well-rounded.
So going back to my point as far as for this year's budget, I mean, is there a decision that we're going to make upon this to actually justify another personnel?
We need to give Randy a clear discussion whether we're going to add a body or not, and if there's going to be increased fees to be able to pay for it. Yeah.
I mean, but he just justified the idea of increasing the fees as a, you know, a $3,000 mark versus, you know.
90,000.
Yeah, but.
Yeah. Well, he's giving us an alternative. If you truly wanted to pay for the position, he's giving you the out to be able to fix it. Yeah, absolutely.
With one swoop.
That's it.
And the other stuff is just some little gravy and sprinklers he's gonna put on top for us.
Yeah, because, you know, that other stuff's not gonna really cut it.
Of course
You know,
not.
if you're looking
What's gotta
for-
cut it
if
is
you're
the
looking
first,
for the
what's gotta
revenue,
cut is the
that's where it's
first.
at.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know where else you want me to look, because there is no other place to look.
You found it.
That's it.
It's easy.
No, you either need to, you know, you need to either be able to recoup the revenues when it's coming through the gate, or actually, you know, drop back to expenses when at the end of the day, exactly, so, you know, it'd be interesting to see if you, you know, again, the only other part way you could do it is, again, would be a commercial station, is like we are now, is the way the truck's going over and pay per ton, and actually make money on it, not just for a tonnage, but actually for handling it also, which, at that
Well,
point in time.
then you'd be at there saying $80-something, because if we're paying 66,
Yeah.
my fuel, my wear and tear on the Packer,
Yeah.
my guys trucking, and everything else,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta get paid for that. I gotta
Oh,
get
absolutely.
compensated somehow,
Correct,
It's
yeah.
$100 a ton, one way or the other.
one way or the other. I mean, it's either you bring it or pay me to bring it.
Yeah.
Whatever
Right.
you want to do.
It's gonna cost you
But
the
then you're
same.
gonna have to go to Main Recycle and get me a ticket, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna charge you per ton. I'm gonna have a tear weight of your truck, know what it is empty. You give me tickets every time you dump, because you went over to Main Recycling if they'd so let us use their
Correct.
scales, which
Yeah.
I think they probably would.
Correct.
But who knows?
Yeah.
And you give me a ticket and we'll bill you. And it's gonna be at the rate that they would end up paying in Auburn.
Yeah, it would be a convenience fee in a sense for
Correct.
going to local versus going out of town.
Yeah. Blanchard had that kind of a relationship for short term.
Yeah, I mean, if we were doing this on a, you know, once in a while basis, one thing, the idea of asking for a favor, but if we're doing on this every day, I mean, to me, we gotta have our own scales at that point in time. We gotta be able to control
To
that.
look into scales,
Yeah.
it's money.
Not cheap, yeah.
No, it's not cheap.
When does this,
Diane and I have talked about that.
Yeah.
I mean, but if we're saving that kind of money, the 90-something
It'll pay
thousand,
for itself in the first
it'll
year.
pay for itself in the first year.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then we can do it. It's easy. You roll on. You know, we'll know what the tear weight is because we'll have them. You know, the truck's not going to change unless somebody eats a lot of turkey. You know, at Thanksgiving, but it's not going to change much. And the other thing you got to look at too is not only the bulk waste, but you got to think about the recycling because they all recycle. They all bring in cardboard. They all bring in their streamline, which is, you know, their plastic, their glass, and everything else. And they're good about dumping that out. But that has nothing to. I didn't even factor in that stuff. So that's just a. You know, I just took the hard cost of getting rid of bulky waste. I didn't get into everything else.
And then fine stuff, yep.
So are we in agreement to put it on for a public hearing?
Well, I think at this point, I mean, I think this is a little bit longer term thing that we need to address the budget issue first of all, the idea whether it's personnel with the money we put in the budget, knowing that throughout the next several months, a few months, we're gonna actually figure a way of actually curbing it either by charging more at our store or
Yep.
not taking the waste. I mean, to me, that's the discussion is more, at this point in time.
shouldn't even be a discussion about getting rid of,
95,000.
right, that shouldn't even be a discussion. If you guys are, to me, that's not even a discussion. That makes more sense than we even have to talk about.
We do need to, I mean, if you're going to do the fee changes, we are going to need to do that sooner rather than later
Correct.
because we're going to start selling new tickets.
Correct. Correct. I don't see
Stickers.
anything, you want to have a public meeting, you right ahead, have one right off the bat, but I don't see anything in here that you shouldn't already be working on for the new stickers, as far as I'm concerned.
As far as the fee changes and stuff.
Correct.
Yeah.
Fee changes and the dropping of
Of the commercial.
commercial. Bammo.
agree.
But that would have to
The
be-
Whether you hire somebody else or not, that's still going to save the town $95,000.
That would be commercial all the way across the board. That'd mean no
So what?
business, no business in town would drop off their stuff as residential only. Right?
I agree.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
If
Just
you're
that
gonna
would
do
be-
it, it'd be sweeping all the way across the board.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, just it would be a drastic.
Just residential.
It'd be,
Again,
that would
Came
be-
out of a
if-
residential household, it goes there. If it didn't,
If
it goes to Auburn.
you want to have a public hearing and you've got them 3 or 4 guys that we know from town that also make deliveries to Auburn themselves, not only do they make dumps
Oh,
here,
absolutely, yeah.
absolutely, if they want to come in and talk about it because, they do business here in the town and you want to structure something up for them guys, them 6, 8, whatever, how many of the guys that are running trash over here from our own local neighborhood, that's one thing. But again, from all these other outside, from all that other stuff, from commercial, all that crazy stuff, it makes sense.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm proposing anyway.
The only other thing that I would ask is, are the fees, tires and all that, is that what we're paying for disposal, so it's equitable?
No, it's actually, there's the tires and stuff that, I've gone over this with Marcel, and some of it's less, we pay less than what we pull in. You know what I mean? It's almost, but it's nothing,
So nothing needs to be adjusted?
nothing needs to be adjusted. I mean, it's within 50 cents. I
Okay,
mean,
that's fine.
it-
That's
it
all I was-
fluctuates, but not by much at all.
Yeah,
Okay.
they haven't changed much.
I
The only thing is the TVs, because we're losing that vendor that we used to bring them to, the
Yep.
TVs, electronics and everything, but AvCog hasn't told us who we're gonna use yet. Because they're trying to find somebody that's comparable in
Yeah,
price.
Unknown.
yeah,
So-
the e-waste is an issue for
E-waste
everybody,
is right.
everybody.
So,
Right.
with that being said, we kept the prices the same because they were saying that they're gonna try to match those prices that they had.
But to me, it's not a reasonable thing to go up on everything a little bit, just to make sure that you do balance it out. I mean,
Right.
there's no reason to break even if those circumstances, I mean, if you're gonna have a fee structure change and hasn't changed in years, I mean, to me, if it costs you $2 a tire to get rid of one, it's not unreasonable to think you're
Right.
getting $4, so you still gotta handle them.
Right.
I mean, you still got the person
$5.
that actually has to, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But a big point that I make, again, it's, we're not looking to make money. It's the fact is, we're looking to minimize the cost
For everybody.
on everybody's budget.
And I don't think the idea of us charging for handling it is the
No, I don't
making
believe it
money.
is. I don't believe that, absolutely, 'cause it's an operating cost.
I mean, I would definitely support the idea of actually, if the question is gonna be coming up for budget, which I think at the end of tonight, we gotta give some type of direction budget-wise, is to actually add a personnel, regardless, we're down a personnel regardless up there. I mean, we need,
Right.
regardless how we do this, we need to figure that out, so.
Right.
I mean, if you know, a straw poll, there's only 4 of us, I mean, I have no problem adding it, especially there's gonna be a year or two of transition that's actually gonna be pretty pivotal no matter how we do this, I mean, there's gonna have to be, I mean, if you make a change like that, you're gonna have a guard at the gate for a year, just
I mean, it
maintaining
is
the
what it
idea.
is. I
you
mean,
know.
people don't
Yeah.
like change, but
Yeah.
they don't want their taxes to go up either. It's
Right.
one or the other.
No, I hear you, no. Yep. But, I mean, the guard at the gate is the same thing that we'd need as far as for people bringing their trash load stickers. I mean, it's
Right.
not, I guess guard is the wrong person to use it in the statement.
Somebody
but
paying
it's
attention, that's
Someone
all.
paying attention, yeah.
Making sure that all our taxpayers nickels and dimes are being looked after, that's all.
Now, this position that we were talking about, is that more of a laborer position, or is that gonna be required to have a truck?
1.5. There's a part-time, half position for a driver between this facility and highway, correct? That
No.
was
No, this is strictly for,
No, this is strictly just for the
Transfer station.
transfer station.
so this person wouldn't be.
We do have, for the public works, we're looking to put a full-time person on, which equals about a half a person, 'cause we
which
already have a
on
half.
this budget too, is what I'm saying.
But it's in the public works budget, not in the
Not
solid
the
waste,
transfer
solid
station
waste. It's not in the transfer station. That is a full new person.
Okay, it was winter operations, I was mixing.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
that
'Cause
would be a
that's why
labor-
that kicks in.
And then
That's
Steve's
right.
got the other half of it.
Right.
So you'd be looking for a labor position more so than a driver or a Class A, or?
I would
mean,
want both.
You'd want
you know,
both,
Absolutely.
just so they
Because,
can share.
we've got one driver right now that, got injured, so it puts us in a predicament because the other 2 don't have licenses. So definitely he'd have to have a Class A.
Yeah. With the money that you were asking for the budget, is that compatible? Do you think you get a Class A? I mean, Class A's a pretty premium these days, so
They're hard to find.
they're hard to find, yeah.
I mean, I can make some calls, but they are hard to find.
Yeah. What was the dollar figure that was what it was, 65, I thought at one point in time, I thought I heard, but.
It's in the back of our budget books. You guys keep going, I'll look at it.
Yeah, I think it must, because it's 18.17 an hour is the base rate.
63, I thought, or something.
Are we talking about the 50/50 driver and laborer position?
No, the
No.
full-time transfer station driver attendant. so we factored that in as a Class A.
Class A,
Okay.
yeah.
60 and some change.
All in, we had
But that's in the
69.
union
69.
contract, so.
All in was 69 according to what was originally
go.
there.
Benefits package.
In his full-time driver position, it's the split, 50/50. That one's 68, so
Right.
Historically, in the past, I mean, this would actually not even bring us back to the level of people that were once actually operating
Right.
at
that's
a station, right? I mean, in a sense, I mean,
And the
that's,
town's growing,
yeah.
Correct.
busy up there.
Yep.
It's
The only
very busy.
thing that would actually change this at all is if we actually change the way we operate up there. It may not justify for that full, but I think that change is going to be a little bit slower to me than maybe overnight. So in the meantime, we're going to need to actually make it work. So,
Right.
I mean, that's one way or the other. The personnel, I think, it needs to be there regardless. So,
So
I
what
think
we'll,
that's more the discussion tonight, more so than the idea. I think the idea of just fine tuning in some of the, some of the discussion and actually having a discussion on it, have a workshop, not workshop, but public hearing, just get people in, get some input.
Because the people that
Yeah.
you're really going to get in are really going to be the guys that are chucking trash themselves. Those are
That
the
and
people.
contractors, right? Local contractors,
You're getting a local contractor.
anybody that does
Absolutely.
roofing and
Justifiably
siding
so.
or general contracting, I think, yep.
I mean,
And everybody has the opportunity to go to Auburn, so.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to say it in a vacuum, and the fact is, I hear it, and it's doing something in Lewiston versus doing something here. There's a premium at the contractor because you're not paying a disposal fee.
Right.
I had a person in my shop say, taking a load up there and, pay tonnage like everybody else, I mean, but
Yep.
Right.
it's one of those things where I wouldn't want to overload our station with a bunch of plastic, I mean, it
Right.
just doesn't make sense, so.
Right.
Good
We'll
stuff,
have
Randy,
this
I
on a
appreciate it,
future agenda. I
Absolutely.
probably won't be till the end of June, because what I'd like to do at the same time is do the ordinance update.
Okay.
That we've started working on quite a long time ago, but Randy needs to look at it now.
I think it would be.
We ought to do it all
yeah.
at once.
I think it would be kind of interesting if you took the philosophy, the idea of it just being a residential transfer station, not so much to do no commercial, what that would look like even beyond the scope of what you actually put out there for us today. I mean, if you weren't actually handling any, shingles and, bulk waste and that type of stuff, I'd be curious to see what those would be, because to me, it would have to be pretty much a clean swipe, going away from a commercial,
Right.
dumping area to just a residential.
Right.
And if there is anything on the committee that was done for solid
I'll
waste,
look back and see. But I,
revisit that and present it. You can share it with us
It would be
outside of this, but I know it was there. I didn't hear anything that was traction at that point.
no.
Your
It was
curbside
way-
doesn't
it was-
fix it. Closing the facility doesn't fix it.
Those are really what we looked at, was just the curbside and closing the facility, and it really was not cost effective to
There
do
was a
that.
little bit on paper bag, and I'm
Yeah.
not sold on that either with the logistics, because everything for our community is built around, we're a bedroom neighborhood that works elsewhere. They're buying their goods elsewhere, and we're expecting Home Depot now to start selling Lisbon bags, and that's not going to happen logistically.
The other thing, and I know it's a pain, but if we were, maybe just to get some rough numbers on, say if we did go the area scale, I mean, what it would cost to put that in place, and the idea of what you think if we're charging tonnage, what it would cost to pay it back, and over like a 1 year or 5 year. Like you say, first year would pay it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, first year would pay it off. It'd be what the increase in revenues would be over the like a 5 year plan. But
Right.
I mean, just it's another option, if that was the case,
Yeah.
But
Okay, you all set?
thank you,
very
sir.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We get 10 minutes. You want to start on some of the budget items?
Yeah.
Get things rocking, right? She gets to be out here by 8 o'clock, so.
Yeah.
Even less 8 o'clock.
She better make sure she got through all of it then.
There she is, yep.
She has her orders.
Don't stop now.
So do you want to go to the budget discussion on the agenda?
Yeah.
So one of the first items that we put off to the side was the library, the additional 5 hours, and then the part-time to full-time. I would really advocate for the additional 5 hours, because that person is getting full benefits, And there was a time when employees working 30 hours a week were getting full benefits, and then the town put a stop to that, but the people that were in the position were grandfathered. And as those people get replaced, we're going to replace them with 40 hours. This particular individual works 35 hours, and we should have hired them at 40 because they're getting full benefits. So that's one of the reasons we want to make it uniform across all town departments. And then the other piece is the part-time to full-time, taking a 28-hour position going to 40, and that's a cost of $21,195.
For the sake of this discussion, I can live with what you're suggesting. I can't support going from a part-time to a full-time position with everything else that we're considering in this current year,
Okay.
but I can applaud the additional 5 hours for a position that's already, by our definition,
Right.
full-time status anyways.
Exactly.
I think I'd agree with that statement also. But
Okay. The next one is the EMA wages.
I can't support that in any shape or form for an increase when it flies against what we have for levels for the other committees with the planning
Exactly.
board, school committee, and council. The fact is, it should be consistent with those.
I mean, we all do more than
Yeah,
our
and
fair
I don't
share.
want-
Everybody in every
But the
committee
difference
does.
is this is an employee. It's not a committee member. That's the difference.
But it's still a stipend that's easy fruit to be able to be controlled expenditures. That's where I'm going to live on that one. And I'm not any person, I don't care who is in it, what they're actually investing, it should be consistent. I mean, because at times, I know the heavy lifting that the planning board actually does for some of the topics that they get into, and the amount of time that they spend in trainings and all the various tasks that they've been assigned in the last couple of years.
The next one is the police motor vehicle. So we have in the budget $62,000 this year, and then the plan is to take $22,000 from unassigned fund balance, and this will be the last year that we use unassigned fund balance. And then if we continue to budget the 62 every year, there'll be a year that we'll put money into reserve because we'll only be buying one cruiser. And by the time we get to the second year where we buy two, we'll have the money already in reserve. We just need to move away from our reliance on the fund balance. And that keeps the budget constant, so you're not going to have these ups and downs in the budget.
to me, if it's a one-year thing and it actually gets us
Yep.
in a rhythm, I would say go with it. The only thing that's not factored in is if with increase in costs over the years of.
No, but we
yeah.
would do that during the budget. You would
Do that.
see that in the budget.
So that 62,000 may
It
actually
may
vary.
increase, exactly.
All right. As long as we can actually do that, I mean, to me, I'm all set with that being a one-year thing just to get it in rhythm. I'm not sure where you.
I mean, it was originally like 45 or 50, so it's gone from that amount to the 62 to get to what's actually out there for cars right now.
The number of cruises actually have changed too, and I support the idea of actually staying more current and up to date on our cruises. And we're either going to pay it, and cruises are paying the maintenance.
Maintenance.
So, yeah.
Right.
The other side of that, Diane, too, is where do we stand on the leases coming off the books? Is
They're all done, they're done. We have no more lease.
So this year, we're actually getting the benefit out of that coming off the long-term debt as well, because we're out of the buyout.
Right.
That's
Yep.
good.
So we won't be leasing those anymore.
Are there any other key debts coming off in the immediate?
It would be, I think there's at least one in this upcoming budget on the bonds that we'll be retiring. I'll get that information for you.
And I'm assuming that's in the budget that we're seeing
It
here for
is.
that. That's factored into that 5%. But just as one of the things that I would like you to be cautious of is communication to the public is key things that what's in this budget, what have we added, what are the additional services, and what are the significant savings that we can point out.
Yeah, the only thing that's left on the lease is the QECB.
Right.
That's the only lease payment we have left, and then we do get some of that interest back. It's shown up in the revenue.
I mean, that's good, because if I remember right, when we did that, it saved us somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,800 a year just in interest by
Yeah.
putting it in the budget, so it's worked what we were intending to do.
Yep. Now, the fire department wages, the proposal is for the 3 per diem shifts for additional $65,000 in wages. There's also, if you wanted to do 2 per diem shifts instead, that drops the amount down to $33,600. And if you don't want to do anything at all, then we can reduce the budget by $65,000.
I'm 2 for 2. I can keep going, but let somebody else actually.
Oh,
I know what I'm thinking, and it centers around the fact is I am not at the position to be able to support minimum staffing at this time, but that's me.
I agree.
So, no on both of those?
With that being said, I mean, I think the discussion needs to be moving forward is,
But Chief has presented some really good statistics that need to be considered.
need to be addressed.
I
mean,
know what I've just cut in saying that.
I would rather, not rather, I mean, I would like to see more of a comprehensive view. I know I talked with Diane today a little bit about it, the idea of actually, if nothing else, see if we can get a grant to get a study done as far as for what our needs are and how the best way to address them, whether that's combine the stations or keep it 2 stations or, you know, how many we should actually have for per diem, and actually having something so when we go to our taxpayers and saying we're increasing the fee not because 4 of us up here thought it was a great idea, it's what this is what
The study says.
national average or state average and what should be done. With that also, I mean, if we were to do some type of report like that, hey Mark, how's it going? We could actually maybe justify the idea of moving forward with the idea if there is a 5-year plan out there and how we do implement the idea of what the study would come out, we would have a basis to actually maybe try to get other grants or other funding mechanisms, I think everybody wants our town to be safe and be well, how would I say, geared up to take on any situation, but I think things are changing pretty drastically, so I don't think this is just a 1-year change. I think we really need to look in the future and see what we need to do, and Chief will do his best to make it all happen for now, but I think this is much part of a bigger discussion.
Agreed, and that was my point. In fact, looking at the statistics that he actually presented, there are some good points. I know what I've just shelved in this item. And the fact is, it is getting no less intense to be able to get a vehicle running. And the fact is, it's nature associated with it for fire service in this area in general. It definitely needs to be something that we're at least keeping it on our radar screen so it doesn't just fall out of sight, out of mind.
Then the equipment, last year we funded that through unassigned fund balance, but this is going to be an ongoing expense every year because we need to keep up with the equipment, something that hasn't been done for a long, long time. So that's why it's in the budget, so that we can budget that every year.
Chief, if we asked 17.6, what are we getting for it this year? You could give us a list, right?
Yes, I'll tell you that the original budget equipment request from the fire department of Florida when they presented their wish list was excess of $90,000, so we had to narrow that
Sure,
down.
the problem is what are we going to buy for 17.6? Yeah, all right.
Where's that list?
No, I'm not asking for the list, but the point is that you have a list that's behind that ask because it is a backlog.
Yep, there is. We had that list down to that 17,000 mark, and it's specific items for a specific purpose.
So you have prioritized that list, so when that's filled next year, that's going to be another 17.6. I would make the recommendation we keep as is.
I agree.
Same here.
Okay, the technology, I'm not sure why I have the R&M equipment for $15,000 on here.
I think it was the same thing. It's the fact that I looked into that one. It was tied to computer replacement.
Yeah.
Looking at where we are at now, they're at the end. Is that list going to be spent this year? Because my intent was...
There was something in a wrong account, and I had to move it up. So there is still some money in the technology account, and if I don't spend it, I doubt that I'm going to have time to spend it and figure that out before year end. I want to carry that forward because we have the PD server replacement that needs to get done,
16
and I don't
grand.
have that in the budget. So I can't spend all of my repair and maintenance on just one server, because if something else goes down, we're not going to have the money. So I definitely want to keep the $15,000 for the R&M equipment, and then take whatever I have left over in the technology budget and bring it forward to help with that PD server.
I'd say it's money already spent, so.
No, it is. One of the things that
I mean, if we
Diane
could
provided
increase
us.
that R&M equipment to 20, I think that would even be better for us.
I would be okay with that for the 1 year, as long as it actually is a 1 year and not actually something that stays at 20 and lives there forever,
Right.
ever, ever.
Mhm.
And the reason I say that is because one of the things that you brought to Norman when Norman put that out there for email communications back and forth, the 5-year replacement program from our previous technology person, was laughable because it's somewhere around 11 years.
Yeah.
By definition, 5 plus 6 is not working adequately.
Yeah. All right, so on to the town buildings. So the first 4 items, we currently have 3 in the budget. The first 3 are in the budget, and then we have the building reserve of $70,556.47. We do not want to reduce any of the buildings accounts, because Dennis does have a long list of items that need to be done. And anything, if we do by chance have anything left over at year end in any of those buildings
It's going to be encumbered.
we want to encumber that in a reserve so that we can get to some of these big ticket items at some point.
I got no issue with that because Dennis presented a very good case that we weren't even remotely covered.
Yeah, and then we do have 30,000 from the unassigned fund balance to go towards that, the trim, the windows, no, wait a minute, the town office roof extension, which we've come up with about 32,000, and I've got 30,000 coming from unassigned balance for that one, because that's a big ticket item.
When does that need to go out to bid?
Yesterday? No.
Well, we've done everything else for Randy, but we've done nothing to free that up for Dennis's perspective. That's why I ask.
If you're going to approve that from the unassigned, then we can put that out to bid anytime.
Yes.
If you are all,
I say do it.
I think
It's
yeah,
gotta get done.
It's-
Get it going as soon as you can.
It was bad enough what we were dealing with on the backside here. That 32 could be worse if it doesn't get done in this construction season.
And unfortunately, I think we're
Is
working.
that a fair assessment?
Well, if we do the 16, it's just gonna suffer the same fate. We don't put the roof and stuff over it.
Yeah.
Actually protect the.
Protect the asset that we're actually trying to replace? Yeah, that's kind of where I was living, right?
And I think we're in the same place we were with Randy with the other stuff. If we don't start moving now with the contractors being as busy they are, we'll have a hard time getting it done before snow flies again, so.
Yeah, it'll go quick.
Yeah, it's gonna have to happen within next,
It's going to be challenging enough to get a contractor that's got a reasonable rate to be able to get it done in this time frame. That's going to be the
tricky
issue.
part. Yep.
Right.
and then you see his list of items, except for the fire department rubber roof repair. Most of those items, I think, could come out of your building reserve of the 70,000, could cover that easily enough. And again, I would not advocate for reducing anything in the town buildings budget that we
Touch none
currently
of 'em.
have.
So we're leaving the same, but we're actually approving the idea of taking 30 out of undesignated
Yes.
to actually balance
Yep.
it off.
All set with that? Okay. And then the planning contracted services.
I think that was resolved in our discussion that we had with the planning board at the last meeting.
Okay.
I believe the consensus was leave it as it is because they demonstrated what we needed to do in the coming year.
Yep, and I think my point would be is I mean, I'm all good for it this year. I think it's an ongoing discussion. I don't think it ought to be a place mark. As anything else, I think this year we really need to look at all the avenues that we have with AvCog and some other services just to make sure that we are using money that we're already spending the most wisely, and nothing against the program or the process, just
That's a good soundbite. In fact, we should use all options that we have and not just the one. And one other piece that came out of the discussion that Don and I had with Ben is we need to it shouldn't be just a planning board resource. It's an economic development and planning resource for the entire town. And the fact is, the goals that actually come were what the planning board were expressing and wasn't viewed by them to be a complete list. So if there are other things that we have for a need for Ben, he is definitely not wanting to be shelved. It's just that as a resource.
I think it's just, and again, I have no problem improvement this year, but I think it just needs to be a case-by-case basis and moving forward. We just need to be able to show the need.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, and then the finance, I want to leave that as is right now until we fill that position. Obviously, with somebody new coming in, we're going to have more professional development unless we can get a municipal experience, but that's unlikely at this point. And the dues I'd like to keep as well. The clerk postage, when we talked to you about that, that had the increase in the postage was due to the increase in stamps, the cost of stamps. It had nothing to do with us sending out those dog notices, which we sort of alluded to, but it doesn't.
It wasn't a big figure. It was $500, right?
It's 900.
900.
So we do actually need that. Then we have, we did a reduction under the director's salary. And then the rental of equipment, I had a decrease of 5,000 on there in my notes.
The annual billing is actually not there, so that recommendation to reduce that by $5,000, I would stand by.
Okay.
We've never elevated to what the outside rental is.
Right, so that's what I did. Streetlights I'm leaving alone right now because I do not know when we're going to get scheduled. If we don't get scheduled by fall, then it will have to wait till next spring because they won't do it over the winter time.
That's the electrical savings?
Yes, that's the one for the conversion, so we're just on
Everybody's
the list.
doing it right now, so I think that's the reasonable approach. If we get anything savings out of it, it'll close
Great.
the fund balance and you'll get it next year.
Yep.
And the culverts, I had revisit, but I don't think we want to reduce those, do we? No. And,
See what he did there? I like that.
no, I mean,
Reassured us the answer was
Yeah.
no.
I am still working on the professional services, so at this point, I don't have a revised figure for you. But it won't go up. If anything, it'll go down.
Good. The only other things that I had, we're hoping maybe for something for insurance before we finally,
We
or are we
got-
done?
No. They're gone out into the market for us because our rates didn't come back very favorably. So they're getting new quotes from another carrier. I'm just waiting for that. I had to fill out a lot of paperwork the week before last when you go out into the market.
Scary.
It was a lot of work,
That's
which I
scary.
didn't really need at this time, but I had to do it.
I've been just
So
dealing
now
with
I'm waiting for that to come back.
What,
It was more than the 5% that I had in the budget.
well, without a doubt, but I mean, the question is.
This isn't health insurance now. This is your property and casualty insurance,
Your
your vehicle,
liability,
that kind of stuff.
So the health insurance isn't a factor then this year, that's all it came
No,
in,
that
okay.
came back favorably for January to June, and then I've done a 9% for the second half, starting next January. But we haven't had 9% increases in a while, but at least that gives me a little buffer for when
Right.
people change insurance at annual enrollment.
I mean, but with what you're saying about our liability insurance, do we need to actually budget the difference just in case it does come through at a higher rate? I mean,
I've got 5% increase in there right now. I'm hoping that will be the top.
what was the percentage that they came back with if we keep?
7%.
7%,
So it'll be less than that. I think it'll be fair.
you think?
Let's take a minor win. We gotta get one every now and then.
I don't know, insurance. the
It's
whole
in-
insurance-
I
Be
know it's-
positive, be
insurance
positive.
world
We
out
all
there
know
is
about
not
insurance.
a good thing right now on any
Sucks,
aspect
and
of
everybody's
it.
got to have it.
That's right.
Right. The good news is, I
Paying
knew we
more
weren't
for less
talking about.
these days,
we
regardless
weren't-
of what you do.
Right. But the co-pays go up.
Okay, if you,
Um,
I just don't want to get in a situation where we actually, have to come back and revisit it, but if you think we're gonna be,
Norman's pet project, do we have a quantity on the new savings on paper and printed materials off budgets at all? We have any idea?
Right.
I think we ought to at least throw something at that for consideration to be able to justify his efforts on that.
Say that again now. Are you talking about what
All the
change?
savings for paper
agendas.
and
how many trees are we
agendas.
gonna save this year?
Yeah.
by
Oh, that?
Yeah.
That I don't know. We probably have some good savings on that.
So 500,000?
I don't know.
What is
But
your
what-
printing, what do you actually have in your budget for printing? Does all this come,
It all comes out of supplies.
all comes as supplies? I think we're just gonna have to do as just a,
He's going to get it next year is what I'm hearing.
That's
there you
it.
go, yeah.
See what the
Once we actually, once we
Tell you in
quantify.
12 months.
It's going to be your agenda packets mainly. I don't know how you can quantify that.
Right.
But we'll see it on the copy machine for sure.
Right. So basically the short version for the
Yeah.
camera that now includes him is he'll deal with it next year.
I
Exactly.
mean, I would love to see that we actually do away with that book next year too and have it just always updated on electronically. I mean, that would be nice, but that way there, when you actually make changes, we can actually look at it at home just by looking into our account, but, I mean, that's a lot being said, so. I mean, the technology's there, it's
Well, I
just,
mean,
yeah,
I can do it if you
Emotionally,
don't
I
want
don't
all
think
the
I'm equipped for
detail
that
that I'm giving you now, all the explanations. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
yeah.
if you don't want as much details I'm putting in that it'll be easy, but it's really hard.
I would
because-
run the opposite. One of the bluntly put, I would like to know if anything changed between this year and next year, like we talked about with the new services or programs and not having to go looking for them with the percentage
right,
increases.
Yes, yes.
Because that
I'll
made
do
it
that.
a little more cumbersome, and I know I dragged these to a standstill because if I have to look at what was there last year and it wasn't this year, that's going to add time.
But you
Yeah.
could do
No,
that.
I
and
can do
just-
that
You could
easily
just do
enough.
that in a small binder as far as
Right.
just, you know,
I can
five-page
just do
printout
that
or
on
something, yeah.
Right, that's hit me with the highlights.
Just in a
Yeah.
small
'Cause then I can
summary
go
report. Yeah.
Just as we're doing tonight right here is the fact is, no, I don't buy into that.
But I mean, if you don't want all those budget explanations, and the department heads and myself refer back to those a lot, but
The
if you don't care
budget, the
about
budget
seeing-
explanations actually help for justification, because when I use Mark's, for instance, the fact is he does a good analysis associated with what that wage line is with the minimum wage and the number of part-timers and all the programs that go into that. That's the kind of minutia that actually justifies that sizable expenditure.
To me, once you actually make one packet, then it can be actually
Minutia.
duplicated quite easily electronically, I would think, but instead of printing it. But again, we'll just go with the flow and see what happens, right?
Right.
Well, we're straying a little bit, but
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, what else, next?
No, I think that's it for the budget discussion. And I did give you an update on some of the changes that I made outside of these discussions. Mainly had to do with health insurance changes as we put new employees on, which for some reason we're having a rush on people taking the single coverage, so I've been able to reduce quite a lot in the budget, so. Anyway, so right now our increase is $473,668 without these additional changes that I'm gonna have to make. So we're getting it down to pretty close, it'll be under 400, I would think, by the time I'm done.
And there's still a couple of
There's a
key
couple of key
factors on the
things that I'm
revenue
working
side that'll reduce that figure.
possibly.
Hopefully.
Well, the listening eye is in the corner, so bring them
I
up
know.
to speed what those are, please.
A little more positive.
Sell
You know,
it big,
really,
Diane,
the two
please.
key ones out there that will really have an impact on the tax base is the revenue sharing, whatever Augusta finally decides what to do with the revenue sharing. And there's also a couple of bills on the homestead exemption that will reimburse the municipalities at 100%, and that will really make a difference. They're looking to increase the homestead exemption, which will help the taxpayer, but also to reimburse us at 100%, which we're not getting 100% back from the state. If both of those factors go in, then that should really help the tax rate.
But your projection right now is that revenues for this year versus last are
Right
relatively
now,
flat.
they're down
32 grand.
32,000.
Right.
That's not factoring in anything we do with the transfer station.
Right.
Because obviously, if you're going to increase these fees, I'm going to have to revise my
Sure.
revenue. So, which that's not factored in yet.
Sure.
So I think you'll see it'll break even. Right now, I put in the current year's revenue sharing. That's going to go up. That's a given. Is it going to be another half a percent, or is it going to go up to 2.5%?
If it's not the revenue side on that, that's been,
Right.
if we go with anything that we're talking about on the commercial side of that facility, you're going to see the tonnage drop and you're going to see the expenditure side offset that easily.
exactly. Yep, and any new value we collect too.
Right.
She's picking up some good value right now.
Nope.
That's why it's hard to estimate a mill rate at this point, because there's still so many unknown factors. The revenues really play a part in that.
Oh, we didn't ask about it, all right. I wasn't.
We'll know soon enough.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, folks.
Next item.
Good news and recognition.
What a downer. Good news is that part's over.
Anybody?
Anybody got somebody to recognize? Let's bring it up. No? I know the high school had their sports banquet.
Yeah.
I saw 5 Golden L's being presented. I know at least one is represented with dads that's hitting in the audience here tonight. So, yay, David.
Yeah, you did well. Had a good season. Track was going well. MVC's this week.
It's funny that you're right. I mean, playoffs are here and everything else already. The season is as abbreviated as it can remotely be, and absolutely. Yay, team.
Go Lisbon.
Next item.
Public hearing, special entertainment permit for Frank's Restaurant and Pub.
I'll open the hearing.
Okay.
That is the verbiage, yes.
Anybody? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing.
Public hearing for mobile unit at Riverside Flea Market, Snappy Dog's Griddle.
I'll open that public hearing. Nobody? Close that public hearing.
Audience participation and response for agenda items.
Anybody? No? Okay, next item.
Cassie's got to be out of here for 8, so she's going to move it right along, folks.
Yeah.
Get your paper and get ready.
Step lively.
Any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. Seeing none, Order 2019-107 to approve the municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants. Number 592019, $24,456.94. Number 5162019, $8,945.12. Number 5212019, $493,616.71. School accounts payable and payroll warrants. Number 1059, $345,626.35. Number 1060, $11,868.96. Number 1061, $609.70. Number 1062, $317,302.15. Number 27, $1,382.10. Workshop minutes of April 30th, regular minutes of May 7th, and special meeting minutes of May 14th. Renewal victualers licenses for Riverside Dairy Bar, Snappy Dog Grill, Smoke and Phil's Belly Bustin' Barbecue. Itinerant vendor permits for Lisbon Rec, Moxie 5K Car Show, etc., and Riverside Flea Market. Off-premise catering permit for Cook's Lobster and Ale House, Beer Garden. Special entertainment and liquor license for Frank's Restaurant and Pub. Scheduled public hearing for Chapter 70, zoning ordinance amendment, daycare changes, and Coastal Humane Society contract renewal.
I'll make the motion to accept.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
5-0, order passed.
Next item.
Council orders, resolutions, and ordinances. Order 2019-108, school safety grant.
Good evening, Mark Hagan, Chief of Police. So the United States Department of Justice has released their 2019 School Violence Prevention Grant. The grant's designed to improve security on school grounds, and we have partnered with the school to put in, or we'd like to put in for a grant and receive the funds and have permission to spend it. With that being said, the police department would be putting in for some advanced training for one of our firearms instructors to go to an advanced school for tactical skills for an active shooter scenario. And the school would like to put in for some panic alarms in each school, as well as some additional security cameras for the high school. So there's a 25% match in funds that is requested from any agency putting in for this. So what it breaks down to is the police department for the training, we would be required to pay $1,114, and the school right now is around $3,400 that they'd pay out of their budget. We have it in our budget to take care of our piece for the training. So we'd like to apply for it. If you give us permission, apply for it and receive the funds and spend them.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
All in favor?
5-0, order passed.
Thank you.
Next item.
Order 2019-109, 2019 Homeland Security Grant, Police Department.
So this is an opportunity for us to apply for the 2019 Homeland Security Grant. Positive about this is there's no matching funds. So what we would like to do is apply for this grant. In the last 2 years that I've been here, we've received about $4,000 towards various items. And this year, we need to purchase a couple of mobile radios as well as some new portable radios. The radios that we currently have are at the end of their life cycle. We've had a couple issues with our mobile radios this year, and they are not cheap. So what we would like to do is put in through this grant. Our request right now would be about $6,800. But again, there's no matching funds. So again, we're requesting permission to apply for, and if it's accepted, spend any money through the grant.
Again, make the motion.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay. Discussion?
And I just definitely support it. Last week I wasn't able to make the meeting because I went to do my NIMS training, which actually was pretty interesting. And a lot of this actually came into discussion. The idea, the reason we were there is actually for, making it able to go for grants. The idea of all elected officials need to go through the basic training. And one of the things that was brought up a lot is going for grants like this is the idea of some of the stuff we could do locally as a municipality to actually make our town more acceptable for these types of grants. And one of the ones that as much as anybody doesn't like to speak to it, is like an active shooter or some type of thing that happens in our school system. And they mentioned the idea of the tabletop type of scenario training with our municipalities, our leaders, fire department, safety, ambulance, of what would happen in a real life scenario and how you would actually train for it. And those tabletop or desktop, however you want to do it, type of training and scenarios on how this would all play out and who would be in command and how you would communicate, and pretty much these are done just to show if there's any deficiencies in the idea of what we actually have available for our resources. And they said showing those from these type of exercises are a great resource when we go for these grants to actually have them documented, saying that not only are we asking for it, but we've actually done the exercise and proved that we need it because we're missing this in our local ability. Again, it was just one of those things where I sat through a 2-hour training, so it's nice to come home with something to actually kind of talk about a little bit. But I'm not sure. I know you do safety meetings with the school.
Yeah, we've been in pretty heavy talks this year with the school because we have been discussing with them changing the thought process as far as lockdown versus what we're promoting now, which is this ALICE program, whether you've heard or not about it. But it gives you options. Instead of just locking down, if you hear shooting on that side of the building, rather than lock down and wait, get out and go to a rallying point. So we're talking with the school, and we're working on that. And most likely, if all goes through well this year, next year we'll be looking for money through one of these grants to do an actual training.
Yep. And a lot of it was just the idea of the basic, as you know, with those local trainings where the idea of who's in command and, how it plays out and resources if there was ever, any type of scenario and where would be the deficiencies, whether it's communication with, our local people or outside and again, it was actually really good training, but it just kind of always left you in that big question mark, while we know our local people are prepared, but if we got to reach out to other agencies, are those connections there, and if grant money does that make it better or not for communications and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we need the radios, and we're going to move on from there.
Well, good. I just figured I'd throw it out there because it was an interesting discussion because we realize that all the other communities around us are trying to get the same type of grant. So anything we can do locally to actually have some type of backup why we need them, always is better when you're going for a grant application, just to show that we, not only are we just asking for a wish list, but we actually have a basis for why we'd like to have the money. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All in favor?
5-0, order passed.
Next item.
Order 2019-110, Moxie Day road closures.
Hi, my name is Mark Stevens, Parks and Recreation Director, and I sent out, or Julianne can't be here tonight because she wasn't feeling well, but I sent the emails out to Randy, Chief Leclerc, and Chief Hagan with road closures requests for Moxie weekend, and pretty much the same as last year, so there really isn't any changes other than going from Berry Avenue on School Street to Vining Street. It's another 100 feet. It shouldn't make much of a difference. Unless you have any questions.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
All right, thank you.
5-0, order passed.
Next item.
Yes. Order 2019-111, Homeland Security Grant, Fire Department.
Fire Chief Nate Leclerc. Pretty much what Mark said about the grant. Due to a clerical issue at the county level, I didn't find out about the grant until a week before we had to have paperwork into the county. So one of the things that I asked for the county to do was cots for the fire stations. Right now, when we staff the fire stations during blizzards, severe weather situations like hurricanes, or any other large event, these firefighters bring in their own things, and sometimes you see them sleeping on tables, under tables, in fire trucks. So we're requesting cots for these firefighters to sleep on. Got a phone call today from the county EMA director who said no-go on that aspect of it. So for about a 45-minute discussion, we are changing our application from sleeping cots for the firefighters to a training situation. So we're looking at putting in for a grant for training to do rescues along low and mid-angle situations like on the riverbank down by the fishing park, to be able to train our people to be able to retrieve people from those areas. So as of right now, the grant has changed from equipment to training.
Why?
She didn't get into why. I think it has to do more with the director's vision of where she wants the money to go for this grant and within the county.
Okay.
That's the impression I got, but I can't really tell you 100% for sure.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
I just have one more question. Is this the same grant that you're both applying for?
It's the same grant.
Okay.
What's interesting
No match.
about this grant is the police department has their own money allocation, so they can't share that with anybody else. So their allocation is strictly law enforcement related.
Okay.
And then fire, EMS, public works, the rest of us fight over the rest of the money.
Right.
And again, with that training the other night, they actually put a big emphasis on the idea of it is going to be very tough to get grants if you're strictly just asking for a grant just because.
Yep.
I mean, the big emphasis is on the idea you need to prove it to us prior in some type of form of background and information versus the idea of just saying we want it. So it's basically the idea of grants tightening up, and the idea of justifying grant money is going to be more important moving forward. So again, that's the same factor probably.
All in favor?
5-0, order passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
2019-112, fiscal year 220 paving bid.
Diane, do you have that figure?
Yeah, do you want this?
Somewhere close.
I paid too much attention to my transfer station. I forgot to bring the paving numbers. Thank you.
I'll take one of them pens over there. Alan, if you got it.
Absolutely. All right, the
Apparently
2019-2020 paving budget. Do you guys all have this list?
Yeah.
Okay, and the low bidder this year was Allstate Paving. I recommend that they get the contract.
And can you just bring us up to speed on what you did to remove the road that you had to pull out?
Yeah, basically, because of the shortfall we had, I had to back out Wing Street from Scottsdale to 125. Basically, that's saving us about 900 ton worth of hot top. and shoulder work, which put me in the, where I had to be budget-wise to pay for that shortfall from last year's budget. Going forward, my next year's list is really short, so I'll be able to put Wing Street back on there and be able to fall within my budget next year.
And
I also, not to interrupt, but I also moved around a couple roads because of the 125 being built. There was North and South Street that were supposed to get done next year, but I'm going to put that off another year because of where the aprons are going to intersect with 125. I didn't see it being feasible for us to do it twice. So I'm going to wait till 125 gets done, then I can pave those two roads into 125 once it's done.
Okay. We approved this tonight, Randy. What does that give you left for funding for anything that potentially may come up next spring before the new funding kicks in?
It gives me between $40,000 and $60,000. I mean, we got our striping budget in today, and they were actually lower than expected, and there was only one company that replied. So
who was it?
That's nice.
That's Lucas, same one that did it last year, and I think they even came in lower. I wasn't in on it, but I heard the results. I think they were lower than they were last year, so which is good. The only thing we have that's going to be outstanding as far as paving goes is a little bit of trench paving for Steve's project that he has on St. Anne, Upland, I believe on Webster, which would be just trench paving for this year.
Two of those streets may end up being a lining project instead of trench paving. No open excavation, so it may just be St. Anne Street.
Yep. So that gives me plenty.
So you're in good shape
I'm in great shape.
Sounds good.
for the place you're at.
Crack sealing?
Huh?
We doing any crack sealing?
Yes, crack sealing is going to be done before the end of June. So it's paid for
So
before June.
that's in that as well too. So you have these.
The crack sealing 2019-20 is not going to be done.
Okay.
No crack sealing being done. But we are going to get a crack sealing that was in the last year's budget done.
Right.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
5-0, order
Thank you.
passed.
Thank you.
Next item.
Order 2019-113, Lisbon Library, sale of used boxes.
Use boxes.
Good evening, councilors.
Good evening.
The
This is Neto.
request is for giving the
Librarian.
library permission to sell the boxes.
We've been criticized. Please identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Diane,
all right.
Neto, Library Department.
We all know who you are,
I
but
know.
some people in the audience like to hear you say who you are, that's all.
Okay. Thank you. We seek permission to sell the boxes that were purchased last October for the remodel. Public Works purchased, and it came out of the buildings repairs budget, about 500 boxes, 16 by 18, quite large. And we stored all those 25,000 plus books in those pods for those periods of 3 weeks. The boxes were then collapsed, put in bundles, and they're in our shed in the garden. However, we use that shed for summer reading program for the outside activities, and it's chock-a-block full of these boxes. They've stayed dry because the shed is that new shed that's dry. And so we're seeking permission to sell them. I discussed this with the town manager, and she felt $1 a box is appropriate. We'll have an envelope, and I'll come and deposit at the front desk under miscellaneous revenue account. So that's what we'd like to do.
I'll make the motion.
Have a second?
Second for discussion.
Okay.
I would actually say, I mean, I'm not sure if you actually have a feeling of how the selling of these boxes will go, but I would actually, I know we get rid of a lot of cardboard.
Right.
And I would like not to hold you to the idea if you need to get rid of the boxes at some point in time. You just need to get rid of them.
Okay.
Forget about the cost.
Right,
Thank
correct.
you.
Correct. If
I
you
mean,
got somebody who wants to buy a
You know what
bunch
I
of
mean?
them,
You got
right
1,000
on.
boxes, if you
Right.
sell 10 of them, it's not gonna make a
Correct.
dent to me. You actually put it out there, if they don't work, they go away.
And I've offered to all the other departments,
Yeah.
and when they took a look at the size, they all said, no, thank you, except for Public Works, took a few for, I'm not sure,
Yep.
do you remember, Randy? Ray?
Ray took a bunch to get rid of his old files.
Right,
Yep.
right,
I
correct.
appreciate the idea of you actually taking time
Yeah.
to sell them, but I mean, if we need to amend the,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
you know,
Thank
just
you.
whatever
The
you
chil-
need to do to get
The
rid of them,
children will
how's
be
that?
happy to have their shed back. I
Exactly.
assure you.
I just hate
Whatever
to
you
see
need.
Be sitting on these the next couple of years, but I'd be more happy to
Right.
say,
They
do
will
what you
be
can, but
accumulating.
if they need to go away, make them go away.
Thank
Though
you
I
very-
have
thank
seen
you.
on Lisbon Community a lot of requests for boxes.
You let me know, because I have many every week I'd love to sell, so.
Right.
but-
My very best.
Sell, I love that.
Thank you, Mrs. Nettle.
Thank you. Want to make a vote?
Yeah, all in favor?
5-0, order passed.
Get your
Next
shed back.
Order 2019-114, tax acquired property sale.
I did receive one. I sent out letters to the abutters because this property would only be valuable to the abutters because it's non-buildable. And I did receive one, and from Tony Quattrano, in the amount of $1,035. So my recommendation would be to accept that offer and authorize me to issue a quick claim deed without covenants and to write off the remaining balance due on the account in the amount of $2,215.
I'll make the motion for discussion.
Second?
I'll second it.
The question I have is he also paying closing costs?
All I do is issue a quick claim.
Doesn't
There's
it?
no
That's-
closing.
There's no closing costs.
Nope, nope.
A quick
Is that-
claim is just,
Nah,
$32.
I go through exactly the same process. There is a process for legal to go through that sale. So if we're doing something different here,
Alan wants to
That's
know
why
all
I'm-
about it.
that's
So we're
why
just
I'm asking the
issuing
question.
quick claim, and all we do is record it for $32.
Okay.
If
Then
I-
the answer would be no, so we don't have to worry about it. But
Right.
that we actually go through a full closing
That's what he's
process.
paying the,
Right.
he's
And I
paying
would- I would- I would ask
$1,032 or whatever it is,
No,
$1,000.
because see, all we're doing is just releasing our claim on the property. That's
Right.
all we're doing
Okay.
in this instance.
So what do we currently have this property valued at?
It's down to $1,000.
So it's $1,000 currently now. We had it wrongly
It
valued
was-
at one point, yeah.
During the reval, it was
Yes,
bumped up,
but-
yes.
There's
It's
no,
unbuildable and it's
That's
landlocked.
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
there's no, town doesn't have any easements for that property or anything like that for
No.
sewer or water or anything else. It's just dead land.
okay. All in favor?
Order passed, 5-0.
Good, made
preempting
you,
this. I love
keep
it.
your hand up a little longer.
Switch hands if you got tired.
Next item.
Ordinance 2019, number 116, to adopt amendments to Chapter 70, Article 1, Section 70-1, Article 4, Division 13, Section 70-530, and Section 70-531, daycare changes.
First reading, it is a roll call.
Yes, thank you.
That's all right. I'm stuck, it happens.
Miss Chair? Could we have Dennis just give it the highlights or why it's 2-minute executive, why it's here?
Hi, Code Enforcement, Dennis Douglas. That's the planning board changes to our existing home daycare ordinance. So for many years, we do a lot of home daycare stuff. Most of it's conditional, I think all of it. So they have to come to the planning board. Gives a chance to notify neighbors, whatnot. There's daycare coming in and, approve it or not. We have an ordinance that says 8 or fewer, and the state allows 12 or fewer in that same scenario. So for years, we're always approving them, but we're approving them at our maximum 8, even though the state allows 12. And it just made sense to make it match what the state is. There's no real way to police them anyways. So that's pretty much what you see for a change, is to go from 8 to 12 to match the state's requirement.
Thank
So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
It's roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just said it too.
Ordinance.
He covered it, too.
You started it on me right there, lady.
What's past my bedtime?
Who is it? Is that me?
Counselor LaRochelle,
Yes.
Counselor Ward,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
Yes.
Counselor Brunel,
Yes.
Counselor Colby.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeas. Order passed.
Next item.
You're
Other
the stall.
business?
I know.
Council committee reports.
It's on her if we don't make 8.
We're going to make 8.
No problem, we're downhill now.
What do we got? We got school.
Norman's not here.
Norman's not here. Planning board.
Dennis pretty much covered it with the change that we just enacted tonight.
We did have a resignation this week.
Oh, thank you. Dan Lehman, effective, tendered his resignation. Thank you.
LDC.
We haven't had a meeting this month, but just an update of some stuff happening. If you notice the 196 project down there, the Rusty Lantern, they're doing the landscaping around, which means they've actually got our boxes in the ground for our solar lights. So I think within the next month or so, we'll actually see a lot of that being completed down there. So exciting stuff happening. So everything's looking good. I'm wondering if that will be all green by Moxie, but I'd be surprised if it's not. So that's
All
it.
this
for now.
rain.
Yep, it's going to happen.
Conservation.
They met at 6, and I can't be in 2 places at once, and Mark left, so I know what the agenda was, but I don't want to steal his thunder, so I'll report next time.
Recreation. They're 2 weeks ahead of last year, getting the parks, trails, and gardens cleaned and mulched. Summer brochure went out early, in early May, and registrations for summer programs are underway. And the Recreation Committee has selected Beaver Park projects to move higher on their priority list. County budget?
Caucus, that's later on the agenda, I believe, right? June 19th. We need to nominate
Yes,
2
2
locally.
nominations.
One of the key points that I would be presenting in that is whoever we nominate, when we actually vote, will carry for Zone 4 because of population. It will oversee Sabatis and Green. That is a key indicator. My nomination would be myself and Mark if he's willing to sit through another series of it. It gets no less challenging to actually get somebody to go through the budget committee process, and I was informed earlier this week that Norm Beauplant will be stepping down, so we're losing institutional knowledge on that committee.
Library?
Summer reading program starts soon, so get your kids signed up. That's all I have.
Okay. Next item?
Town managers report.
Just to touch on what Fern said, I believe it's next week those lights are going to go in down by Rusty Lantern. And that will finish up our project downtown, and then I'll know exactly, once we pay that bill, exactly what my balance is, so that we can spend that money in another area of downtown, preferably for some parking.
Okay.
And the work has started up above here, the sidewalk work. That's going well. Everything's still on track for closing on that other piece of property on May 31st, as far as I know. And there was one more thing, but I can't think of it. That's it, I guess.
Okay. Next item?
Department head written reports.
Anybody have any questions?
I'm all good.
No? Okay. Next item?
Appointments. Order 2019-117. 2 nominations for County Commissioner, District Number 4, Lisbon, Sabatis, Wales, for
Make
County
a-
Budget Committee.
Mark cringed, so I let him
Make a
speak on
motion
his behalf.
that we nominate 2 from our committee. Mark, are you interested?
I'm willing to if no one else wants to do it.
And Alan, they're actually both tenured people in now, so I mean, I think the idea of having these 2 on our committee will actually
Benefits.
help to, yep, exactly.
And I will second that one.
Absolutely.
All in favor?
Sorry, Mark.
0 order passed.
Next
Thank
item.
you, both of you, because I know
Yeah,
that's
no,
actually
it's-
over and beyond,
it's-
for sure.
It's rough for
2
4
budget
weeks.
seasons is bad, so forget about 1.
Council communications.
We've communicated enough.
Yeah. Okay. Next item?
Audience participation for new items.
Look at this fine young man walking to the podium.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just here.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Roger Bickford, 149 Main Street,
There you
Yeah.
go.
among other things, but I won't. I am here.
To explain the trash bags?
Huh?
The trash bags.
You better stop. Cassie wants out of here for 8 and Roger's up to the podium. You better stop. Go ahead, Roger.
I'm here to bring forward to the town something that's going to happen June 1st, and that's going to be the ATV access roads. The signs are up. Some of them have bags on them. Some people wanted to see what was under them, so they ripped the bags off of some, but that's fine. June 1st to October 31st. I want to, instead of putting something in the paper, I got a camera up here so I can talk to the people in Lisbon. We're going to probably need your help in policing it. Cell phones are great if you can take a picture. And the people that are out there using it, 10 miles an hour speed limit. Let's try to keep it close to that as possible. And there's one thing that I do want to bring up on the ordinance that's it's important, and hopefully things will work out very well. Young people 16 and 17 years old, even though they can ride on the regular outside trails, unless they have a driver's license, they cannot ride the public roads. 18, if you don't have a license, it's fine. That was fine. But I do want to press that because sometimes people don't patrol what little Johnny does. And big Johnny is hard to patrol sometimes too. So it's a lot of us are going to be out there, and if they do catch little Johnny running, we're going to escort him home.
I have a question. That's just 16 and 17-year-olds?
16 and 17-year-olds, if they have a license, they can ride on the public roads on an AT.
So anybody under the age of 17 without a license cannot?
Cannot unless they're with a person, and this is state law, 21 years old.
Okay.
Not 19, not 20, 21 years old. And then, so, you know, basically a 14-year-old, if he's with his father or mother, that's fine.
Or somebody 21.
Yeah, as long as it's 21, I know. So it's, that was something that I talked to with other established places, and they wish they'd put it in. Because that's basically the parents are letting them have the ATVs for babysitters when they get out of school. And it's not working. So we put that in, and I think it's a good one. So, but as June 1st, and hopefully everything will go good. I'm still skeptical, but we'll find out. And I do, while I'm right here standing, I'd like to thank everybody. The Lisbon Hardcore Riders, they've got 15 members, and they've done all of this, plus bought the signs and the post, and that was $2,000. And it was a lot of money, and a lot of the businesses helped out in town, and thank you, Fern. So, you know, it's really, you know, there's been a lot of businesses have donated small stuff. Webster Engineering, I think, donated the bolts to put the signs together. And there's been a lot of stuff. So there's been a lot of people in town that have come up and stood up and helped. And there's also been 10 or more prominent landowners that have stepped forward and helped us in building trails and stuff, and that's been very good. And one of the main ones is Judson Art. When he gave us one field to go down through, the whole Gould Road stepped up. So that was very, very good. And so there's been a lot of support there. But I'm hoping it works out very well. But there's always bad eggs, so we'll see what happens.
And I think it's interesting because a lot of communities are looking at this, and I think they've done their due diligence to try to do it right. So it's just a matter of time to see how it works out. But I hope for the best. If it doesn't work out, it's not because people didn't try.
No, it's not because. I want to thank the town council again for giving us a chance.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Seeing none? Next item?
Order 2019-118, adjournment.
I'll make a motion.
I will second. All in favor?
5-0, order passed.
You did it, girl. Congratulations.
10 minutes to spare, 11 minutes to spare.
13 minutes to be exact.
Let me put my glasses back
Follow these
on.
down.
Mine says 12. I'll give you the 13th.
She's gonna take it.
Huh?
He says he's giving you the 13
Oh, I'm
minutes.
taking
He's
it.
gonna take it anyway.
You want us to shut these down?
I did.